Hi everyone, welcome to this video. My name is T. If you're new here, I really do hope everyone's day is going well. It's like I'm addicted to violence and chaos, and today I'd like to inflict it again. So as you can tell by the title, As you could tell by the hoodie and the dewy, you already know. Today we are talking about the intersections of sexuality, money, and power. Specifically, we are all aware that female sexuality is regarded as an economic asset and beauty as a tool for social advancement across industries, but especially the entertainment industry, particularly in hip-hop. But as the veil continues to be drawn back on this once very confidential industry in Corinne Steffens we trust, and consumers are getting an inside look on how things really operate, who really holds the power, and the metrics of success therein, it begs the question, is it really possible to sleep your way to the top? Well, it's complicated. But you know what might make things less complicated? These two books right here. When Chickenheads Come Home to Roost, A Hip-Hop Feminist Breaks It Down by Joan. I know, you have seen the Black feminist commentary creators talking about this enough, okay? They have been raving. It might as well be part of the Hall of Fame at this point, so you know I had to cop. And the second book is 90s Bitch, Media, Culture, and the Failed Promise of Gender Equality by Allison, Yarrow. I read both these books for this video. Literally, this video would not exist if it weren't for these two books, and it's a required reading for you too. What I mean by that is you can watch this video and grasp what I'm saying perfectly fine without reading those books. Like, you could hear me. You could definitely hear me. But if you read those books and then you revisit this video, you won't feel me. That's all I'm saying. Let's go ahead and lay down a general understanding of what it means to sleep your way to the top. Because when I say sleep your way to the top, we all know that I do not literally mean napping your way to success. The definition I would like to use is from English language learner Stack Exchange. This definition was submitted by user Jonathan Garber. They write, "It's intended as a form of wordplay. To sleep one's way to the top is an idiom that means the trading of sexual favors for advancement of some sort. Although it can be applied to both sexes, it is usually an insult leveled at women who, correctly or not, are perceived as being unqualified for the positions they hold." Jonathan was in the entire bag when they wrote that definition. I mean, the entire bag. Everything from the mention that it can be a genderless phrase, but it's mainly charged at women, and it's usually derogatory, and it alludes to incompetency as well. It's just all around like a really good definition. But my favorite part about it is that it doesn't reduce the concept to an exchange of physical intercourse for power. And that's really important because sexuality, sexual gratification, erotic power, etc., it does not always have to involve sex. Like, it can, obviously, but it can also be visual. It can be emotional. The list goes on. Let your imagination take you wherever you want it to. Now, those who view female sexuality from a moralistic and a puritanical standpoint automatically see this, and I mean all of this, even the good gumption that I had to make this video in the first place, as wrong. And you know, that's fine. But just like I said in my Femme Fatale video, I am not talking to you. You think what you think, you believe what you believe, and that is your business. I just want you to go over there and handle it. But for the rest of you who are actually interested in exploring how this came to be and why it thrives the way it does, let's go ahead and talk about some of the contemporary ways we've come to recognize this phenomenon in hip-hop. Beyond hip-hop's deliverance of art and media, another key aspect that keeps consumers tuned in is the lifestyle. As seen in music, movies, or simply influencer culture, the intersection of wealth and sexuality is one that is deeply desired by modern society. So I don't even need to sit here and explain to you the appeal of it, but it's also deeply scorned. On social media, we've seen women who have achieved local popularity for their looks cross over into fame when they got in relationships or were simply seen with men of high social status, such as rappers. And I've also noticed that their names become more prevalent if and when they bear children with these men. From there, they may use this popularity to push their businesses or bring attention to their talents, or they may just continue to be seen with these men or in circles adjacent to them and reap the benefits of association from there. This formula is commonly found in women who social media and the tabloids usually mockingly refer to as the rapper's baby mama. The bias society places specifically on Black women who mother children out of wedlock, especially if it's to like a rapper or an athlete, is so... Let me try and understand y'all though, okay? So from an elitist standpoint, I think the bias is, well, it's right there in the name. Rapper's baby mama. So rap, which often includes misogyny, toxic masculinity, homophobia, you know the whole spiel, right? And then there's the baby mama part. Some people are upset that these women would choose to bear children without first being married, technically making them single mothers automatically. And I do agree, like it is selfish and unfair to children to bear them solely out of a desire to be rich. And let me be clear one more time. This is not to say that this is exactly what happened with the women I used as examples earlier. This is just me hypothesizing on what other people, particularly judgmental people, may assume of them. And then with rappers at that, right? So they are now subjecting themselves to the misogyny, toxic masculinity, homophobia, you know the spiel. And it really makes some people's stomach turn that women are out here choosing a lifestyle where they're sexually desired, yes, for sure, but romantically cared for, emotionally nurtured, humanely respected, questionable. But ultimately, babies or not, it seems like people's main issue with women using erotic power for advancement is the view that it's the practice of forfeiting intelligence and settling for indecency. And you know, I have personal beef with the notion that being smart and sexy is mutually exclusive, because it's like, do you not see me sitting right here? Now, when we view it through this lens, it seems very cut and dry. And the tabloids make it even worse, right? If they're not perpetuating the narratives themselves, then they're leaving space in the comments for people to run with the tale that these women, or women like them, are just these insatiable seductresses who have goals in mind, and instead of obtaining them in a way that respectable women would, they cheat. They rig the game and they make it harder on all of us. They make it harder on other women because they're stealing opportunities from us. And they make it hard on men because men
just can't control themselves.
We're getting there. Now, these stories are compelling, like from every angle. Whether you hate these women, you're envious of them, you idolize them, you want to be with them. Like, it's a very compelling narrative to tell and a very convenient perspective to have. But in the words of Khadijah and Bo, we're all going to present and understand things from the perspective we know. But what happens if our perspective is harmful to others? Because keep in mind that this accusation of sleeping your way to the top is not only thrown at women who people have plausible suspicion of, it's leveled at damn near every conventionally attractive woman with publicized success in general. So what if our perspective is harmful? What if our perspective is only half the truth, or none at all? Or it places moral blame where it doesn't belong? Have we no choice but to challenge that? What if it was you? Let's start with our understanding of consensual sexual exchange. Because oftentimes when people hear that, they immediately think sex work, which in a way it is, which I do support. But when most non-sex workers hear sex work, or they hear things adjacent to them, they immediately create this degree of separation. Like, they immediately detach it from themselves and they don't think introspectively about it. And that's weird. That's suspicious. We flatter ourselves too much by thinking that there's this huge gap between women who do this and the rest of society. Shout out to Teanna, aka Fab Socialism. Again, she referenced some similar examples in her video on sex work, but that Cardi lyric that y'all be screaming, I don't cook, I don't clean, but let me tell you, Yes. How did you get the ring? We can also think of the number of ways women explore exotic or unfamiliar sexual territory that they otherwise would not have in exchange for their man's fidelity or his loyalty. My man would never cheat on me because the shit I got, the shit I be doing. Or what about men who say things like, if I spend X amount of dollars on a date, by the end of it, I better not only be getting a goodbye hug. We can also talk about the men who exchange their labor, their services, men who will fix your car and send you and your girls on a trip that he won't go to, buy you an Uber home from an event that he's not at, simply because you bat your eyelashes at him. Obviously, this doesn't happen in every single heterosexual encounter, but I'm saying sexually gratifying exchanges occur every single day, and it's a normal part of how modern society functions. In the words of Joan Morgan, the more subtle, the more socially acceptable. And our inability to see these as valid career enhancers, as if we don't engage in similar exchanges to advance in everyday life, is wildly hypocritical. It's oblivious and it's pretty damn ignorant. And let me be clear, because I just know that somebody's gonna be like, wow, I see we haven't brought any morals to the table. So what? You're saying we should all do sex work or sex adjacent work? Is that what you're teaching the people? Fuck off. I am pro sex work just as much as I am pro firefighter or pro sales associate. It's work, and it has its rewarding qualities just as much as it has its exploitative ones. There are people who are doing it because they genuinely love it, and there are people who are doing it because it's just the best option for them based on their current circumstances. And I feel compelled to explain this, honestly, for my own peace of mind, because when it comes to female sexuality, as complex as it is, people often can't help but to dichotomize it. And I am one of them, admittedly. The intersections of hip-hop and feminism. Oh, we don't need to make that a chapter though. This in particular has been discorded for quite some time now, namely with the whole Madonna whore complex, which basically limits feminine sexuality to either being virginal and nurturing or overtly sexual and arousing. No in between. And although I have, for the most part, come to the understanding that sexuality is more of a sliding scale that evolves over a person's lifetime, when it comes to conversations like these, I still find myself and others trying to defend one end of the extreme, and it simply doesn't work that way. Trying to conclude complex topics such as this one as either liberating or degrading, empowering or belittling, it's like you can't do that. It's literally not allowed. Like, you can't use one end of the extreme to explain the whole thing. It does not work. Really, up until about almost a year ago, I was an advocate for very rebellion-led feminism. If you were watching me a year ago, you know how true this is. Very much, if it's in contrast or it's in spite of patriarchal standards or moralistic viewpoints or puritanical standards, then do it. Go for it. Do it on a dick. Sex? Have it. Faces? Sit on them. That was literally me. And then it was pointed out by Kim Foster in one of her videos that there is a lot to be said about the fact that the sexual empowerment that rebellion-led feminism promotes closely resembles the male gaze that we are so desperately trying to escape. And yes, there's a reclamation aspect, sure. Yes, there's the, when we do it, when women do it, we are sexual subjects, not sexual objects. And there's a difference. And there's power in that. Absolutely. Look, I'm still on your side. Like, I get that. Multiple things can be true at once, right? So instead of trying to default a complex concept to one extreme or another, I can use the information that's readily available to me. I can reach out to my community who is so responsive, who come from all walks of life, and I can attempt a proper, nuanced analysis. So when we're talking about these things, and they're out there happening in the real world, in real life, and it actually goes left, which it can, when there's an abuse of power happening, when vulnerabilities are being exploited, the lines of our understanding are not blurred. Men withholding power, is that the best way to, okay. We might have to rename the chapter, but yeah. If we're gonna pay so much attention to the methodology of women who strategically mothered children of rappers or video vixens or IG models, whatever, right? It's only fair that we give equal attention to why those methods exist as an option in the first place. Are there any adversities that are in these women's way, why they couldn't get what they wanted in a more traditional way? But in the entertainment industry, what was the tradition to begin with? Was there a precedent set well before them for the most effective way for them to achieve the success they desired? What I'm getting at is, there is too much of a disparity between the scorn we have for women who sexually gratify their way to success and not enough scorn for the powerful men who reserve success for women who sexually gratify them.
Maybe we stop saying women slept their way to the top. Maybe we say corrupt men withhold promotions until they receive sexual favors. How about that?
Part of the reason why people don't want to view it from Tavia's perspective, which rounds out the truth of the matter, is because there's still this widely accepted belief that, or widely held belief, that untamable sexual desire is men's inborn nature and like the predisposition to their gender. They simply can't help themselves. Ironically enough though, while we view sex as something that men are innately incapable of resisting, most of the sex-shaming language that we use is charged at women. When we're describing men who frequent sex with multiple partners, we would call them like a man whore or a man slut, implying that the latter half of the phrase is innate to women. That's why we don't say woman hoe. It's already colloquially understood that it's charged at women. You see what I'm saying? So although heterosex or gratification... Carisha, you need to enunciate.
Carisha, you need to downsize so you can enunciate
I
your
don't even do a
words.
fuck thing, baby. Everybody know my
Downsize so
dude.
that you can enunciate.
Santana, shut up.
Try it again. So although heterosex or gratification takes two genders to tango, if something happens to go wrong or if controversy happens to arise from it, such as this phenomenon that we're talking about, it's always somehow the woman's fault because she had control and he did not. Which is such another contradiction, because if women are really the ones in control, why would we be doing any of this anyway? Like, what top would we be sleeping to if we already had control of the entire ladder? Somebody gonna have to tell me. Now, this isn't to say that this specific dynamic is exactly what happened in the cases of the women I mentioned earlier, but with all of the stories that we have heard about powerful men in the entertainment industry abusing their power and using it to receive sexual favors, with the stories that we've heard straight from the mouths of women like Corinne Steffens and Drew Dixon, or other women who have worked subordinate to major label executives and producers and video directors, how can we not see that this action, I was gonna say phenomenon, but it's not a phenomenon, it's like of men abusing power. How can we not see that that is also thriving side by side with women who sleep their way to the top? How can we not see that they may intersect? Or how can we not even ponder the thought that that may be the origin? So is there such thing as sleeping your way to the top? Theoretically, I'm sure you could find an example. So maybe, I guess, but not in the way that we've come to understand it. There are three parties in this phenomenon: men, women, and the rest of society, each playing their role in upholding it. But who we place the blame and the shame on, that is what needs some reevaluating. Well, that would seem like a perfect place to end the video, but I'm not done. Hell hath no fury like a righteous woman scorned. Hit it! Turning the conversation inward, like within the gender, I would like to talk about the specific scorn that women have towards other women who, let's just say, sell sexuality. Because it's so easy to blame this all on men, isn't it? That's so easy. But the bias, the blurred lines, the polarized understanding, women uphold that too. And I would like to theorize as to why. In the book, when Chickenheads come home to roost, there's a chapter called Chickenhead Envy. And for those who don't know, a chickenhead, it's basically like what you would refer to as a gold digger. A little bit different, but yeah. So in the chapter Chickenhead Envy, Joan Morgan tells her own personal story of a time she was heartbroken. There was this other woman who had a hold on the man she was pursuing, and she consoled herself by contending that this chickenhead, living how she was living, which was very different in comparison to how Joan was living, was basically the cause of all this mayhem. And it caused me to think, there are so many women who sacrifice so much to earn the respect that they want and deserve from men. I mean, they appeased tradition, they appeased religion, they didn't look where they weren't supposed to, they didn't wear what they weren't supposed to, they didn't explore the sexual landscape around them. And of course, this doesn't apply to every single woman who maintained in puritanical standing, nor do I want to insinuate that modesty is inherently oppressive, because it's not. But to the women who know what I'm talking about, I'm looking at you. Because you hear me when I say sacrifice was involved for you to become the upstanding, respectable, righteous woman that you are. Sacrifice was involved to balance this contradicting binary of feminine sexuality, of being sexy but not too slutty. You dealt with the hot and cold, right? And that game was always meant for you to lose, but you made it out anyway. Whole time on the other side of defiance was the man you always wanted, success, a shift in feminist conversation. Hold up. You mean to tell me Cardi B is happy with herself? Oh, hell no. I totally get how some women could feel like it's a personal attack on their womanhood. They feel like something has been taken away from them and everything that they've built, just like Joan Morgan did in the book. In the book, Joan Morgan maintains the belief that eventually all chickenheads lose because, quote, when it comes to the division of power, men get a much better deal. With any skill, their power, money, increases exponentially over time. Thanks to deeply embedded prejudices regarding women and aging, ours, coochie and beauty, diminishes drastically with age. More often than not, a pretty young chicken who tricked her way through her 20s may find herself out of the game by 30. But here's the thing. If female erotic power has been thriving since the beginning of time, and it was, by Joan Morgan's perception, at an all-time high when that book was published, which was in the 90s, and we know that record has long since been surpassed, that means that it's just getting more and more efficient over time. And for us to put it past these women, like with all the resources available to them, that they are not actively finding ways to ensure that this money will last them far beyond their pretty and young years, I don't know. I think it's a little bit insulting. It's insulting to the intelligence and the strategy and the skill that it takes for these women to even land themselves in that position in the first place. And look, hold on. Maybe this is just the naivete of my youth talking. But I find it hard to accept the notion or the extreme conclusion that something like this is wholly counterproductive to the advancement of women when we can clearly see that there are women who have used their erotic power to build sustainable wealth in ways they otherwise could not have. Ooh, but that's rooted in capitalism. Okay, we can clearly see, beyond the money aspect, right? We can clearly see that there are women who have used their erotic power throughout their career and have landed themselves in boardrooms and in executive positions of power that, okay, I know that there's a lot of controversy surrounding, Kim Kardashian and whether or not her freeing those people from prison was a publicity stunt or not. But at the end of the day, a woman whose career started with a sex tape was able to sit in a room with the then president of the United States of America and get people pardoned. I can't just sit here and act like that didn't happen. And if we want to turn this back to the advancement of women, I mean, does Amber Rose not exist? Has she not used her erotic power and hip-hop's absolute obsession with her to amplify feminist objectives that would have otherwise fallen on deaf ears? Did she not host one of the largest slut walks ever? Has she not dedicated so much of her time, energy, and celebrity to fighting against the stigma that follows female sexual autonomy? And beyond that, has she not played her role in reshaping the general understanding of consent for those who take female sexual expression or overt sexuality as an invitation to assume ownership of women's bodies?
The comfortability that some people find in wanting to touch or grope you, that's being sent out there that creates that type of response.
No, it doesn't. If I'm laying down with a man butt naked and I say, you know what, no, I changed my mind, that means no. It doesn't matter how far I take it or what I have on.
No, I wasn't saying
no,
that.
It means no.
Like, I'm talking, Amber Rose has been attacking this from so many different angles for time now, since I was in high school. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like that didn't happen. Now, does that mean that every woman selling sexuality is out here doing that? No, of course not. And there was going to be a chapter in this video where I was talking about like women who actually don't give a fuck about any of this feminism shit, who are like, and how we need to protect them too. But I think that's a little bit too radical. So I'm girl bossing a little bit too close to the sun here. But okay. It does not mean that all of them are out here, you know, like on this feminist objective stuff. But in the same way that I wouldn't say that all women who are selling sexuality are out here changing the landscape of race and gender relations, is the same way that I wouldn't say that they're all destined to lose. And in doing so, they're all pulling us to lose a town with them. Like, I would never say that. But nevertheless, this is not a winner-loser situation. Like, righteous women, this is rewarding for you too. Everybody can be rewarded in some way. Like the same way that y'all didn't have to walk around with that, oh, this ain't for free mentality, is the same way that you didn't have to walk around with the mentality of, well, neither are favors, neither are gifts, neither are trips. Like, thankfully, you did, or I should really say we likely did not have to navigate our romantic and sexual encounters with the mentality that things like gifts and financial support had to be repaid with sex. And that's a huge pressure, not even taken off of our back. It's just a huge pressure we never had to feel. That's rewarding. So like, multiple things can be true at once. And the last thing I want to say is that the one thing that this book pointed out to me, because I know I didn't even talk about it in this video, but it's great. Honestly, if you want to take an honest trip down memory lane, specifically the 90s and how women were painted and viewed in the media and all of that, read this book. But the one thing, if it's one thing that this book pointed out to me, it was that empowerment, especially when discorded in the context of female sexuality, will have you, very much like me in this video, running all over the place, right? It's paradoxical, it's confusing, it's unfair, and sometimes conclusions cannot be found. But what we can do, instead of trying to conclude things with one extreme or another, is we can acknowledge all of the factors, good and bad, that contribute to these phenomenons that we tend to blame completely on women. We can speak candidly, not just about things as they're happening, but the things that are contributing to them before they happen. What may come of that may not be immediate resolutions or resolutions at all. It may just be compassion and broader understanding. I already told y'all this ain't no conclusions factory, but at least with compassion and broader understanding, we'll be better equipped to help pull up problems from the root. Maybe. Maybe. The fight for equality is definitely not linear, but last video I ended it with maybe look within. We should also try looking around too. Thank you all so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Let me tell you, this video was long. It was tiring. It took a lot of research to prepare. It took a lot of emotional labor to make. So not everything was as memorized as I would have wanted it to be. I know you saw me looking down at my notes a lot. It's just a lot. Like, I was literally making additions to this video this morning, and I never do that. I literally never do that. Like, usually when I put my pen down, I put my pen down. And that's just that. But it was just something about this video that just kept me coming back like, maybe I should add that. Maybe I should add that too. So yeah, I literally just had to sit down and record it before like I drove myself up a wall. Many of you may have been expecting part 2 of my desirability politics video, and that video is already written. Like, let me lead with that. But I haven't sat down to record it because, let's just ease off of the racially charged, emotionally draining conversations for one momento, can we? Like, let's do that, and then we could get right back into it. But I need to catch my breath. So yeah, not yet, but soon. I think I have maybe like 3 more videos, and then we'll resume that conversation. Does that work? I also really hope y'all enjoyed the chapters that I split this video up into. Shout out to my coworkers here on the Commentary YouTube space who unknowingly peer pressured me to fall into line with that one. But yeah, I hope it made everything a little bit easier for people to consume. Be sure to leave your thoughts and your comments down below. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, however you're feeling today, and subscribe for more content. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.